Live today. We're going to talk, excuse me, we're going to talk all about giving feedback, because as a leader, and especially as women leaders, giving that feedback, that critical information or insights back to your team members or even your colleagues, and at times going upwards to your leaders, is important in order to ensure that the right actions are being taken and that your goals are going to be met. But here's the thing. Today, I want to talk about a specific piece of feedback or structure that we have been taught since I don't even know when. I grew up with this. I went through school with it, even in my management and my MBA. Of when we talk about feedback, we want to use what is called the feedback sandwich. Now, I don't know if you know that, but it's like the good part on two sides. So that's the bun. And then in the middle, the meaty part is that feedback, that critical feedback, or possibly that negative feedback that needs to shift. So let's talk and dive into that, because I want to share with you why that is actually not helpful at all and can be actually leading to your team members, your colleagues, or even just if you want to use it at home for your family or your children or your friends, that it is actually confusing the issue and it's leading to ineffective feedback. So welcome today. If you're joining in for the first time, I'm Kim Rijmakers, the founder and head coach at Leadership Edge Academy, and I help women leaders build high-performing and empowered teams without having to work 24/7. So if you're a woman in leadership looking to grow in your career, but also in ensuring that your team is functioning at the best possible level, then let's have a conversation. And today's topic, all about giving effective feedback, is going to be one piece that is going to really help you with that. So let's dive in. Because when it comes to the feedback sandwich, or I also call it the the hamburger, right? I love hamburgers as a side note, but we talk about this doing praise, criticism, and then a praise, right? Positive, negative, positive. But what happens with this is that you are going to have a couple things happen. So either someone is going to hear the praise and completely miss the criticism. I've had that happen at times when I've given team members, okay, listen, I see that you've done a really great job in incorporating the information for that report, but it was a little late and it didn't really come to a conclusion, which gave us a good solution and options moving forward. But you did, you were able to, write it in such a manner that people understood. So now I know that's a bit of just an example, one-off example, but here's the thing that happens. I've given some feedback like that: praise, criticism, praise, or, positive, negative, positive, however you want to phrase it. And then certain individuals will only hold on to the positive. Oh, well, you said I did a great job and I did this right and I did that right, and completely miss the criticism that was sandwiched in between, right? This is why we call it a sandwich. Or I've had the opposite happen as well, that someone only was able to only walked away with the criticism and then never walked away with the praise at all. And just like, oh my God, I can't do anything right. It's like, hold on a minute. We talked about what went well and what didn't go well. And a lot of times, and this is going a little bit into the communication sides of it, so I only want to highlight one piece in this, is there is a part that we talk about that when we use this method, this framework, we often say, here's the positive, but, and then we go into the negative, and then you might even just say, but again. Now, when you say the word but, and I'm not talking about what you're sitting on, but the BUT, right? The but. This word is actually a trigger for your unconscious or your subconscious mind, which is where 80%, 90% of your decisions are made. But that but actually throws up a wall. And while you logically, and you look at it, you're like, okay, I can follow it. Your subconscious doesn't. It essentially takes everything that happened before the but and it ignores it. It just kind of like throws it out because that is no longer relevant. So when you're finding yourself, this might be one of the reasons why you find yourself going, I used the feedback sandwich and yet it didn't work for me, is because it doesn't really take into the consideration, the core issue, what you want to address, because it kind of buries it in between these positives usually. But it also subconsciously, in the way that your brain works and the way that the brain of your team members work, most of us work, is when we hear the word but, our guards go up and we cannot process any information that went before that. We only hear what comes after that. Now, the other side of it is when we look at that praise, criticism, praise. Now, I am a full believer in that individuals, even if they're underperforming, that there are still really positives that can be highlighted. But here's the problem. I don't know if you've experienced it, but I know some of my clients have as well as me. It's like finding like, okay, now I have a situation that's really not going well. And it's a struggle to find that really that positive that I could put into the two positives I could put into my feedback sandwich. And then what happens is I might be like, oh, well, you're doing a good job. Okay, well, that doesn't really tell me any specifics as to like the good job of what, right? A good job of writing the report? Was it a good job of presenting the report? Was it the good job that I just did the report? Like, what is it? Because with that vague or even more overly positive feedback, because you're looking for something to be positive about in order to wrap the negative in, it doesn't actually help. And what it does lead to is that when you've wrapped all this, the critical feedback, let's put it that way, right? And it should be constructive, feedback that is actionable. You've actually sugarcoated it, and that can actually lead to a lack of accountability and recognition from the person that you're providing it to. And they've missed out on the opportunity to grow, to improve. So when it comes to, I see some people popping on. So if you've got questions, please drop them in the comments or DM me, of course, do questions as well. So with this, I've really kind of broken down why that feedback the feedback sandwich or the hamburger sandwich feedback, however you want to call it, that framework isn't working. The praise, criticism, praise. So what you could do instead, and now this is something that we talk about within the Leadership Accelerator. I have an entire framework built around feedback and how to give feedback within the Leadership Accelerator program. So if that's something that you're interested in, DM me Accelerator. But let's dive into one way of doing it, right? I want you to really consider the power of providing direct and specific feedback. Now, when I talk about specific, what I want you to focus on is the actions or the behaviors, not the personality or not the person. Like, don't get personal about it, right? So keep it business, not personal. So what can you do? You can look at when you start, or you're going to start giving this feedback, is start with the context. Explain what the situation and the behavior that you're addressing. I saw that for the report, that the report was due on Wednesday, and yet I didn't receive the report from you completed until the Monday thereafter. Okay, so all I've done is shared the context as well as the behavior, right? The behavior or the action in this case is I received the report late. Now you want to focus on the impact. So explain how that behavior is affecting the team or the project. With a late report, we were unable to update our stakeholders in time, which means that we don't have the resources needed for the next phase of the project. Okay, there you go. That's your impact. Next, you're going to look for ways of how do we fix this? Right? And really, this is going to be up a little bit. I'm going to leave this a little bit to your discretion as to how much do you really place completely onto your team member and how much do you take on for yourself in order to help find ways of improving. Now, I'm a big believer in really delegating, but also empowering that individual to come up for solutions. So you could start with, All right. Now, knowing this and having had this situation, what can we do to improve to ensure that the next deadline you will be able to meet the next deadline and provide the report on time? Now, that opens it up for them to provide suggestions. If there's nothing there, again, this is also a little bit of allowing that individual, that team member, to be able to take initiative. If they don't, A, that's a little note for yourself of like that could be a point to work on in the future, but be prepared for yourself to have some suggestions. So maybe it is in this case of a report, all right, here's what in order to ensure that we meet the deadline, let's have a first draft that you provide by a week before the deadline. And this first draft should have included. Notice that I'm providing, again, very more specifics, not just give me a first draft because, hey, maybe they decided the first draft was simply giving you the title sheet and a table of contents. May not be quite the right direction you wanted to go in. All right. But you want to be specific in what you want to see and where and what you want to have as an outcome. Now, you also want to end this conversation and giving that feedback with some encouragement. Hey, listen, I see that you've done I really believe that you're capable of providing the valuable inputs and completing these reports on time, right? So let's ensure that we have been able to get you to that point. Now, what happens with this is that it really highlights the positive outcomes of clear feedback, okay? Because the positive outcomes of the positive outcomes of clear feedback are going to be a better and improved performance from your team members, increased motivation, and stronger team dynamics. Because nothing kills a team faster than when the feedback loop does not work and people are like, why aren't you dealing with this? Or did you not pick this up? And you get frustrated yourself as well. So here's what I'd love for you to share. Share your thoughts in the comments below. But what is your biggest struggle when it comes to giving feedback? What is it? Is it the fact that, I don't know how to address giving negative feedback in the right way? Maybe it is, hey, I don't know how to give feedback to my senior leaders. So I would love for you, drop in the comments below and share what is your biggest struggle when it comes to feedback. And again, I'm Kim from the Leadership Edge Academy. I help and empower women to build and create high-performing, empowered teams, and I can help you do the same today. So if you want to go more in depth and learn more strategies, tangible strategies you can implement today, and you're ready to get started, DM me Accelerator, and let's have a conversation of what that could look like. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to hearing all of your insights and your questions in the comments below.